Hello everyone. This is Evan Abrams here. Your final video challenge of the week. Thanks for being with us all week here. Thanks for being with me all week here. hanging out, giving you your video challenges. Today, bit of a change of pace. We are going to be examining some things that are new. Well, actually, one very big thing that is new in After Effects 2023. This is a feature, not to build it up too much, but that a lot of people use After Effects. I know you've been wanting this for a long time, myself included. We're going to be having a look at the new structure, the new capabilities of the new track matte features. So if you're not familiar with track mattes, we're going to talk about that. If you're new to After Effects, don't worry. We're going to be walking through it. We're going to be doing a nice basic intro challenge that I hope will introduce to you the ideas and the flexibilities of track mattes, and we're going to see how it goes. Also, we want to see what you make with it. So if you can, please jump on over to the Premiere Discord and get ready to share some stuff with us over there. All right, without further ado, let's get into this. There we go. Okay. So, also, thanks for being with us. Great to see you, Rick, Steve, Umacorn, of course, D, hello. Of course, hold it down on the boards, Wade. Thank you so much. Keeping people, keeping things moderated. All right, so mattes, M-A-T-T-E-S, mattes. Mattes are one layer that will control the visible space of another layer, right? So in this case, let's play this through. We have many mattes that are being used to kind of shine a light over here. We've got mattes of all types doing it up. So we've got this layer here. So if I just go ahead and solo this layer, you're going to see that this layer is just a circle that's moving around, and that circle is blurred out, but it only shows up, it's only showing up in very specific areas. It's only showing up around the edges of the word mattes. And then let's have a look at this one. Well, it only shows up in the words, right? In the full spaces of the word mattes. And likewise with all of these, that we're able to reference this layer down here called mattes, and then that controls all the others. So that is the joy of mattes. We use this a lot in compositing, where we need to have holdout areas where something cannot be seen or something is obscured, something seems to drift behind something else. This is the case of reactive lighting. If you want to have light cast on somebody's face, but of course not on the background, so you would need a holdout matte over part of that. So mattes come in a few flavors, a few different types, a few different styles, but let us begin our process, let us begin our challenge with something a little bit simpler. This is more of an example file to show you what we can be doing. Here's what we're going to be creating as our challenge. It's a little bit trippy. It's a bit of a, bit of a thing for our classic Hammer horror Halloween-y stuff, but this is good practice for figuring out how these mattes work. All right. And they all rely first on creating one singular matte layer. So if I double click on this and we go into this composition, this here is a composition that is simply using radio waves to generate a number of things. Let's take a look at them one at a time. The first, we've got the radio waves effect dropped out here, and it is producing a lovely, radio waves that are white. There's some nice white radio waves. You can duplicate that, and then we can offset it, and that will produce dark radio waves because we've got the stroke set to a dark color, right? So we've got light areas, dark areas, and see-through areas in here, right? So all the components, all the things that we would look at with a track matte. So we could look at the luminance. We could evaluate the luminance of this matte, right? Is it light? Is it dark? And we could evaluate the alpha of it. Is it see-through? Is it opaque, right? So we've got all of the parts, all the switches that we want to throw with this. So to get you started, let's go ahead and create a new composition. Hit the new composition button, and let's just call this matte practice, perhaps. All right. And of course, there's many ways that we could do this, right? You could be generating this by drawing shapes, right? You could just draw some shapes, make those black and white. If you want, you could be creating a new solid, right? I'll make a new black solid like this, and then maybe I'll come up to the effects and I will grab like a Venetian blinds transition onto here, and I could go like 50% here, and we'll bring the width up so we can have like some horizontal bars if you would like, something like that. But I opted to go for a nice classic radio waves. Generate radio waves doesn't get enough love if you ask me, which simply starts to generate from the middle of the composition a bunch of radio waves. You can choose your producer point. We can choose a lot of things about it, but I am going to remove the fade out time, and I'm going to increase the starting width to 100, ending width also to 100. I'm going to go ahead and make the color totally black like that. And what I want to do is get these things spread out a little bit so you can increase the frequency or decrease the frequency as you like. So we'll just bring that down. And then the expansion, how far and how fast they go, let's go ahead and dial that up. So frequency up, this down. Just remember that if we want to work in nice round numbers, it'll make things a little bit easier for us. So here we go. We got some expanding radio waves. Hey, Tim Mobest, how you doing? So we've got one set of expanding radio waves. Thumbs up to us on that. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this to make a second one. I'm going to change the color to be white, and I'm just going to drag that layer to offset it in time. And I want these to just overlap a little bit, right? So you can see here as I kind of move this forward and backward one frame at a time, click, 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 go like that. So there we go. We've got our see-through areas, and you can toggle your transparency grid if you need to here. It might help if you want to make like a new solid. Maybe we set that to be like bright red, so we can always remind ourselves, oh yes, there we go, some darkness back there, right? But we don't really need that. We know that the checkerboard means see-through. That's what we want. So with this lovely, lovely mat, right, we're going to take that matte practice, and I want you to drag it out onto a new composition. So now we have a composition that is the same size and frame rate and duration as that matte that we just created, and there it is. Treat it like a piece of footage, right? If it's a composition down here, it's going to behave just like footage. And if we just have a look here, the options we want to play around with down here are the track matte modes in here. So this is going to serve as our mat, right? So hopefully this is going to be good. Now, to make it simple for ourselves, all I want to do is I'm going to make a new solid. You could use footage, you could use images, any layer can be matted in a nice red like this, and hit OK. So on the red layer here, I'm going to say track matte. So I'm saying which layer do I want to use as the matte? I'm going to say use matte practice. Now, this is an update to the way the old system used to work. Before, the only way you'd be able to reference one layer and as your track matte is if it happens to be above, right? And then you'd be picking one of the four ways, one of the four methods of interpreting that matte. Now, right now, by default, it is using a alpha matte. You can see this little icon here. It's a circle inside of a square, and that means alpha. So that whenever you see that, we're thinking alpha mattes. Right? Now I can give that a click and we'll have switched to Luma matte, which means we're evaluating the luminance of the layer. So we're evaluating either the alpha of matte practice or we're going to evaluate the luma of matte practice. Now the reason I set it up like this is because we can really clearly see, we can really clearly tell, right? This, right, the black area and the white area are both totally opaque. And this area in between, of course, totally transparent. Therefore, we can expect when we kick it over to alpha matte, that's what we should see, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Now, if we give that a click, we go into the luminance, right? White is considered to be totally opaque, and black is considered to be totally transparent, which is why we now see, yes, indeed, the black area, the black ring has gone see-through, and also the area of the alpha where there is no information, because if there is no information there, it is considered also to have a luminance of 0, right? So that's how we get it. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Now, We also are going to tip into the other little checkbox here, which is to invert our relationship. So we are evaluating luminance, and now we're taking the opposite of that. Same thing, we could evaluate the alpha, and then we could take the opposite of that. So these are our toggles, right? Which channel do you want to evaluate, and then do you want to invert it or not? Okay, hopefully this is good information. So now what I want to do is to produce something that looks a little bit interesting. So I'm going to go ahead up here to effects, and I'm going to just drop a ramp. I'm going to put a gradient ramp onto this here. And let's see, we could put this in any which way I want. Maybe I'll put one up in that corner. I'll put one down in this corner. Good, I like this. And now I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to swap the colors, and I'm going to say, give me the luminance of that. So now I've got two, right? The two things that we're evaluating, the luminance, which is of course the thinnest version of this that we could acquire, right? And so we end up with that. I'm going to duplicate it again, and I'm going to say, you know what? Why don't you give me the alpha, but we're going to invert it, right? Like that. And then I'm going to take our gradient ramp here, and let's see. Let's have it just evaluate across totally other spectrum across like that. So now we have basically three gradients, right, taking up these three sort of areas of this design, right? And if I wanted to alter the original design, let's say I wanted to change something about it, right? Well, I only have to change one layer. Before, you would have seen something a little bit like this, that we would have had one layer for each. So this is kind of the big change, that we've reduced basically the number of layers that need to live in this composition. And by coming in here, let's say I wanted to make a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to apply to this a turbulent displace. Let's get displacey, right? So everything's going to be nice and warpy around like that. If we return to here, you can see, because these all reference the exact same thing, this is what we're ending up with, right? They're all referencing the same warpy element down here, which itself we can turn on or off. We can make visible or invisible as you want. So if you want to sort of take this thing, you want to bring its opacity down, you should keep in mind that even if toggling its visibility on or off doesn't change anything, altering anything about this layer will cause changes to everything else. For example, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab a Gauss in the house blur here, Gaussian blur, put that on here. And as I apply the blur, you're going to see all of those mats are now they're all getting blurred out. And so the other thing that I want to call your attention to, at least at this point, is what that does to our kind of layer performance, or our performance on this thing. And notice that I've got our little handy escargot down here, Oscar the snail, is evaluating, and see that mat is now giving us quite an amount of time to render, because it's really being kind of triplicated here. Anyway, but we've got, like you say, Umacorn, some beautiful water ripples. Now, I'm going to just bring this down. Let's see. Let's not use the that blur. Let's use just a fast box blur out here. So I'm going to just drop the fast box blur on that. Let's get that blur radius coming up a little bit. And you know what? Let's take this top solid. Let's bring this down. I'll swap the colors again on that. And it'll have no track matte at all. And I just want to kind of hit render on this so that we can observe how this looks. All right. Click whir. I haven't cleared my cache in a little while. So while this is coming on, I just wanted to mention to you that even though we're using very stark contrasts here between black and white areas, between opaque and transparent areas, mattes can have so much subtlety to them. You can generate them in so many different ways. We're really only looking at the application of them today. And if you want to go any deeper into it, I really recommend you check out more things on compositing and visual effects. It is a hoot. It is a fantastic tools. And the flexibility we gain from the new system will likely replace a lot of the workflows that people use when delving into the set matte effect. So if you're familiar with the set matte effect, if you've had frustrations with it, I hope this can clarify and give you more options on what to do. Okay, so here we go. Let's play this back again so we can enjoy woof, whoop, 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 things getting nice and nice and glorpy out here. That's looking great. I'm loving it. The point was that you can apply effects to blur out these elements right here. Now, the other thing that I want to kind of call attention to, especially when working with mattes, is in here, right? We are sort of, come in here, I just want to look at the edge pixels on here if we can really kind of closely, right? That these are the areas that we would say that have ambiguous pixels here. And so when we come back in here, you can see that there's some pixel tearing that's happening in here. Now that's because we are combining, you know, alpha inverted, luma inverted, all these things. And so the boundaries between these things can get a little bit choppy sometimes. So if you were to abut a luma with a luma alpha or a luma inverted, they may not match up as succinctly as we would hope, or sort of a luma with an alpha, and those things, you may see some friction in there. So having the ability to just blur this out a little bit can make those areas just a little bit nicer as you blur them out. Okay, so yeah, now you just need to master the calculations effect, all in due time. Now, from these humble beginnings, right? What I want to see you do, if you can, I would love to see some kind of unique applications of this. So, you know, create different mattes, deploy them in different ways. We could come in here, we could say, I know what I'll do. I'm going to start mixing some color into this. So let's get some color going in here. So we can get some red to blue going in this one. And let's see, let's get this one going. Maybe we'll get this from like a purple on one axis and then over to sort of like a brighter, yeah, something like that. And you know what? We're going to change this mode up here to like an add, or maybe we're going to bring it into like a screen or something. So you can kind of maybe overlay. So just really playing around with these things to get some interesting combinations out of this stuff, because we have the same template for all of them. So we can be very, very, we'll say, generous with what we want to play around with the rest of the elements in here. So we'll start doing stuff like that. Let's see, maybe we'll start sampling. Sampling kind of like this. Make some very interesting and subtle things. Now, before I get too wrapped up in my own stuff, showing you what we would be doing with this, I want to cut back to where we started, right? With this example here. So in this, we're not using a composition as our matte. We're using this text layer for mattes, right? So if I just show it to you now, you see we've got the word M-A-T-T-E-S, and we've got a little bit of a stroke around the outside of these, right? So we've got all that same information that you would find. Of course, we've got dark areas, we've got light areas, and we've got transparent areas, and we've got opaque areas. All 4 excellent areas. So with that in mind, we can use this in combination with, say, some circles that float around, get larger and smaller, right? And why settle with one when we could have many, right? So I'll just take all of these and I'll sort of remove their matting so you can kind of see what this looks like here. So with no mattes at all, it's just some undulating spheres moving around. Ooh, yes, ooh, ghosts. And we can then take these, and then we would use that track matte mode and say, hey, we want to use mattes, the word mattes, we want to use that for all of them. And if all of these were set to alpha, you can see that they're all just being clamped inside of the alpha bounds of that shape, right? They're all getting clipped right into where that text is. And we sort of contained all of these ghosts in here, I suppose. So if we observe that now, kind of like that, and I'll turn these other top layers off. You can see this is a really quick way to create very interesting kind of effects or sort of motion graphics-y things by using these. And again, I don't want to talk about the past too much, but it's worth saying that all of these previously would have had to have had their own track mat spliced in here with them, right? Or they would all have had to have used the set mat effect on them, which is 4 more effects that you'd need to dial in order to sort of mess with them. You'd have to actually enter in there, and deal with their effects one at a time. But here, all those controls are now kind of harmonized right out in this one layer, or in this one composition rather. And the layer that we would want to modify to then modify all of them is right in here. We don't actually have to go anywhere to deal with this thing. So it makes a lot of edits a lot cleaner. It's going to make a lot of production just a lot faster because we don't really have to go anywhere to change this stuff. And, as we've said, clicking around and trying to find the right mode, it's actually way fewer clicks. You don't have to come in here and pick one. We're just like, is this what I wanted? No, I meant like that. Yes, I meant like that. And did I want it to be inverted or like this? No, this is the way I wanted it. Perfect. So really quick, pow, 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 snapping through. So anyway, so now we've got it here, and I've got I've got the different circles sort of applying themselves to different parts of the text. Some are on the edge, some are not, some are on the whole thing. They're all combining over top of each other to create this kind of a look. Now, we also aren't limited by the type of layer. So you can see that these adjustment layers here are also using some lovely mats. So this one here, for example, is applying a change to just where the text is, and we could use that to sort of make it a lot brighter, make it a lot lower. If you wanted to, say, add a fast box blur onto this, you can see that we can blur that out, and the blur is limited to just that particular area. So something I'm going to recommend you think about, something you look into when we're trying to lock stuff down into particular areas. This is really useful when we're thinking about, say, character things where we maybe have an arm or a face or a head and we want to put edge lighting on it. Just put some shapes in there, set them to add, use that the basic animation, that flat animation as the mat. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. So I encourage you, play around with these things, and we want to see them. We want to see what you do. So to that end, here in After Effects, if you've been following me all week on here, you know what I'm about to say. We want to come up to Window, and we want to get Review with Frame open. There it is. It's our old friend. Frame.io is back over here. And so we're going to go ahead and pick the project we want to put this in. And wouldn't you know it, in here you can say upload the active comp into there. Yes, please. Knock that in. And so what it's going to do is say, hey, do you want to use, say, lossless? Do you want to use, say, H.264? H.264. We'll put that in there. And render to the projects directory. Absolutely, why not? Hit upload. And we're going to, we've queued it up. Well, once that kind of processes for us, we'll be able to share that along. Ooh, look at it go. It's already going. So I encourage you, get onto our Discord server. Come on over to the Premiere Discord server. That should be share your work. There's going to be a bit.ly/PR Discord. Come on over there, and you'll be able to send me a link to this. I'd love to see it. I want to see what you do. This is a great way that you can just share it out. And for example, you just kind of come in here to item options and you're going to say share for review. You're going to copy this link and then you're going to paste it over in the Discord. And that'll be fantastic. And then what I'm going to do once I have that link is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to press play on this thing. And I'm going to be like, ooh, I love it. I love what you're doing. And in fact, I'm going to need to express that. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type love what I'm seeing. and then I'm going to post it like this, and it's going to create a little time-stamped comment so you can know, oh, this is the part that I want to be talking about. So anyway, frame.io, I love that it's here. I love that it's part of our Creative Cloud subscription, and I hope that you are enjoying it as well. This has saved me a lot of troubles in client work. It's very difficult for people to describe what they'd like, so anything that can help with that is much appreciated. All right, well, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for being with me today, but also all week if you've been here all week. Thanks to everyone who's been sending in things for us to look at in the Discord. I love to see it. I love to see what you're all doing. I hope these things have been helpful and useful to you. I hope you enjoy these new features, and I hope that you get a lot of use out of them. So I know that the teams have worked really hard putting these in place, so I hope that that you do make use of them. Also, big thanks to Adobe Live for this wonderful shirt. The way to my heart is through merch. Anyway, I hope I see more of you on here on Adobe Live. So until next time, stay creative, be kind to each other, and stick around for office hours coming up next. I'm gone for the weekend, but I will see you all around the internet. Bye for now.